say g'day to all of you around the world. This is Source My Property. This is Building Returns radio show with W.O.R.K.S, hosted by John Stokoe and myself of Source My Property. This evening or this morning or this afternoon, wherever you are around the world, we are hosting from Australia Jeremy Streeter. Just a brief element about myself, and then we'll cut to Jeremy, who's already live on the call. I myself am a owner of Source My Property, a property sourcing and development company in South Wales in the United Kingdom. We are rapidly expanding across the United Kingdom, but the main benefit or the main basis of having this radio show is to highlight the doers, the movers and shakers in the property industry globally. We want to be bringing you a show where you, the end user or the client or the investor, want to know where you can park or put your money for decent and safe returns, safe and ethical returns. So my role is to go around the world and find you the very best in the property industry, whether that be developers, company owners, financiers, any element of the property game, and bring them and host them on this radio show so that you can make an informed decision about what you want to do if you're investing into bricks and mortar. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to Jeremy Streeter, our esteemed guest. Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Great, John. Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Just want to say to all the viewers around the world, it's now 8 p.m. in the UK. And just to show how international the show is, I have Jeremy sitting in an airport in Perth, I believe it is, Perth, Australia.
Yeah, airport in Perth. My flight is in about an hour and a half, but it's just gone 4 a.m. over here, so I'll be flying over to Sydney from Perth in about an hour and a half. So
fantastic, and this is what people do to get on the show. We're going out to thousands of people around the world, and we're bringing in the world of property. So last week we were in the United Kingdom, we were in South Wales, in a small area of the United Kingdom. Now we're spanning the whole of South Australia, or the Southern Hemisphere in Australia. So Jeremy, just a couple of questions, I think, for all our viewers to get them to understand you and your business. Can you explain to the viewers and the listeners in a few words what your business name is? And we were talking a little bit earlier about what it's currently named and what it's going to be named. Can you tell us what the business is, name, and what you basically do?
Yeah, so currently the business is called W.O.R.K.S Developments, and it's a property development company based out of Perth, Western Australia. But my business partner and I, we sort of found that we come up with the name W.O.R.K.S because it's Latin for giver or to give. So we sort of built the company and the property development business side of things to sort of give back to as much as we could to the community in the sense of new and innovative housing solutions, but also a lot of the profits we're giving back to the local communities that we're actually going to be doing those developments in. But the problem is that we found that the name W.O.R.K.S Developments, was really only relevant to myself and Ray, my business partner. So when we're having to explain a business name to everyone on the street that was asking about it, it wasn't really having any hold for us. So the trading name of the company is going to be changing to Future Ready Homes, in the sense that we provide tomorrow's living today, and that's the basis of everything that we're doing at Future Ready Homes, is really trying to come up with innovative solutions about what we feel the housing sector is going to require in Western Australia and Australia and globally in the next 10, 15 and 20 years, and trying to implement things we can now with the technology that we have now. So it's a bit more self-explanatory when we say Future Ready Homes rather than W.O.R.K.S Developments. So
fantastic, I can understand, it makes a lot of sense. To give our viewers an understanding, what is this sort of, you talk about building developments, are we looking at individual homes, are we looking at multiple developments, or what sort of size developments are you looking at putting together with Future Ready Homes?
Well, currently the main project we're working on is the development's going to be called Sustain, and it's a 1.1 hectare site, and it's got 40 dwellings on it. So, and it's a bit of a mix. So the developments we do, we don't do the sort of business as usual models in Australia where it's usually either a land subdivision where they basically just acquire the land, carve it off, flatten it, destroy every sort of bit of vegetation, just retain it, and then sell the vacant land off to the market, or they do it as a house and land, or you've obviously got like the apartment sector. What we do is we build estates, so housing, and we like to call them inno villages, so innovative villages, and it's a sense of, I guess, if you could sort of imagine it being a gated community without the gates. We build it, and we start it from the built form rather than carving out the land and then building it to suit. We actually start from the built form first and work back. So so we actually do it from start to finish, and then sell the end product off, a turnkey solution off to the market.
Oh, interesting, very interesting. When we were talking earlier, you were discussing using call options to minimize risk. Can you explain what that means to, let's just say, the novice investor or somebody who's watching this, and how that would protect both yourselves and them when working with this development? Yeah,
so pretty much every land acquisition that we do under a call option agreement with the vendor, and for a couple of reasons. Basically, the first reason is that we can structure the deal to be a lot more beneficial for the vendor itself, for the original landholder, because we can offer more money than the market, because in exchange for that higher price point that we're offering the original landowner, they're giving us time, and so that call option we'll often do it on a 24-month arrangement, and during that time, like I said, in exchange for them giving us that 24 months, we will offer them over and above the market. Because what that allows us to do is it de-risks a lot from us as a company's point of view, and also investors that are putting in capital to do the development. It de-risks it in the sense that we're not having to settle on the land and then have holding costs eating us alive whilst we're trying to get a development approval. And the second way it sort of de-risks things is that, say we acquire a piece of land for $1 million and that's market value, and the market might be 900. Once we go ahead and, get the development approval in place, that increases the actual value of that land once it's got a stamped and approved, DA on it. So now we've also got the benefit of the soft equity involved as well. So now that property might be worth 1.5, 1.7. So that's the other thing. So now we've sort of manufactured that equity, and still not having to settle on that property. We can basically delay settlement on it right until the day before we're going to start construction. So
let me try and put this across to you from what I understand, and I'll put this across in layman's terms for people. I believe I understand what it is. So if you have a piece of property that's worth, let's just say, $1 million, you're not actually paying for it up front. You're delaying the purchase cost till after the end of the development is finished. And before you even start developing on that plot of land, you're actually getting what we call planning permission. So that plot of land, from just being a vacant piece of land, is now worth a lot more, as you say, 1.7 million, because it now has planning or development rights on that land. And you're only paying for, which is now worth 1.7, you're paying 1 million for, but only at the end when you finished all the developments. Is that the right way to put it across?
Very close, except we settle on the land prior to starting construction. We're not allowed to actually start construction on the land, because the way the option document is drawn up is that if you're the landowner, John, the property and the title remains in your name until settlement. Okay. So I go and spend my money and resources on getting the development approval or the planning approval whilst the property's in your name. So the other sort of bit of a safeguard for you, if you were the landowner, is that I'm spending all my time and expertise and resources on adding value to your property. So if for some reason I can't end up completing the deal, your land that was originally worth 1 million is now worth 1.7, and now you can go ahead and still continue on because you still own it.
Okay, fantastic. So one of the other angles and one of the clear avenues of what I'm trying to put together with this presentation, with this radio show, and eventually a publication in terms of a book, is how to make money with no money down, without any of your own money. So instead of what I initially said with paying for it at the end of the 24 months, so you're acquiring an option on a property, so you're not actually paying for that property. You're then applying for planning permission, okay? And by getting planning permission on that land, it's now being worth 1.7 million, which you would then, are you then selling that before you begin developing? The 1 million that was originally agreed?
Correct. As soon as we're ready to, we've got the development approval in place and we are ready to start construction, we settle on the land then for the original strike price.
Right.
But we've also already got finance, whether that being through private equity and capital or through traditional methods, based on the 1.7 mil. Plus, during that 24-month period and leading up to that, we've also been marketing the product and getting pre-sales as well.
Sure.
So that's the other way of de-risking it. So yeah.
Sure. So this is part of the education piece that I'm putting out on the show, is effectively you are taking control of $1 million piece of land. You're going through some form of planning process. And through that process, you're turning the value of that property from 1 million to 1.7 million. So I'll ask anybody that's watching the show, how would you like to do that? So you're effectively making, and you could, and am I right in saying that? You could sell, because you now have the option, you could buy that for 4 million and you could sell it the next day for 1.7 million, because that's what it's worth. Am I right in saying that?
Correct. And that's the other thing that we've done to sort of increase cash flow for the business, is what's called a short option. So you can do one or two things. And especially exactly what you're saying about getting into the property business and the property industry without having any money. It's exactly how I started. I had $0. I was in that regard to invest, but got taught by my property coach, Mark Rolton, who is an expert in the options. And basically it was that I went and I found what we class as the ultimate buyer first. So starting from the end game in mind first, finding developers that require certain sites, and then I could go out and base my searches on them, get those under option, and then on-sell my position to that developer. And then you can basically, without having to do any development approvals or anything, because they want to do them specifically to their needs, they've now got a piece of land that they don't have to settle on for another 24 months. Yet they just pay me to buy the position, the option off me, and then I'm out of the deal. I'm done. I've assigned the option over to them. I've got cash out of that, and the developer's happy because they've got a real bargain as well. They're not having to settle on the land. That's a short option. And then a long option is when I would go ahead and do what we discussed first, the development approval itself, and increase the value of that land. And now I can use that equity again, or just on-sell my position for a lot more now. Like you said, this planning approval cost or development approval cost for this 40 key project it's looking at around about costing about $250,000 to $300,000. Again, we're sort of using other people's money and capital to fund that. But again, at the outlay at the end, we could on-sell that position and make a clear $350,000, $400,000 net profit without even doing the development. So there's multiple avenues.
That's brilliant. That's the key piece behind the show. Instead of being in dire straits, don't make money for nothing. That's just my little joke. So I mean, there is the availability to go and make money out of property with little, if any, sometimes zero of your own capital, and that's a big thing. This is, folks, and everybody that's watching the show, this is what I'm trying to get you. Everybody has their form of property. Everybody's doing it their own way, but everybody understands, and every single property professional around the world understands how in their own market to go out there and to do property, to find property, and to create property opportunities, deals, investment, whatever it is, with little, if at all, zero of their own funds. So that's the key piece. You've heard it here first. We spoke about it last week in South Wales. We're speaking about it here in Australia in a bigger guise. Jeremy, if I just move on just briefly, can you tell us briefly about your business structure? You mentioned a partner. Can you tell us the structure of your business, Future Ready Homes?
So Day.O.R.K.S Developments is a proprietary limited company in Australia. So it's a standard company structure, and myself and my business partner Ray, we're 50-50 shareholders in that business. And then basically, like I said, Future Ready Homes will pretty much be a trading name just associated underneath that company structure. And there's a couple of other sort of platforms and stuff that I'm working on as well that'll sort of come under that Day.O.R.K.S property group, so to speak. So yeah, it's basically, the structure of it then sort of works is that, rather than myself and Ray personally being shareholders, we have our like family trusts or holding accounts as the shareholders. In that way, so to increase the sort of asset protection at the time. But the way we structure, we keep every.
So where do you guys see the business in the typical HR interview question? Where do you see the business in 3 to 5 years' time? Where are you guys going?
Exploding, basically. We see being able to scale from 1 hectare sites to probably 10 or 12 hectare sites and master plan communities. That's where we're headed. The team of town planners and architects that we've got together at the moment are phenomenal. They're real A-graders, multi-award winners, and they're on the same page. And what's been fantastic about the rapid growth that we've had in wanting to do something that's not the business as usual is that you find that there are people passionate about this innovation and this as well, but there's often just one link missing. And in the case of the West Australian market and the Australian market, the key missing was the property developer that was willing to put up their expertise and their connections. And because you had the town planners and you've got the architects and the engineers that have the ideas and the innovation ready to go, they're just missing that link. So we've got a really great team that are all like-minded and really buying into this with both IP and in a financial sense. So we actually, yesterday, looks like we've just taken control of another large parcel of land, a 30-hectare site, which is fantastic. So that there is really going to, that's a 5-year project in itself, a thing of that size. And again, just touching back to before, in principle, the offer's been accepted. So we've now again taken control of $24 million property with zero money down.
Okay. Anybody saying that they can't make money in property because they don't have any money, what would you say to them? They're just uneducated.
That's right. That's right. There's always a way to structure a deal. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Jeremy, a question for you and your business. What sets you apart? What makes you guys unique? What sets you apart from the rest of the market in Australia?
A couple of things. First thing is the way, obviously, that we talked about first, the way that we structure deals to really de-risk the development from start to finish. We start with the end game in mind, and we focus on we try and focus on the third parties in the deals as much, if not more, than the company itself. We really focus on what the vendor needs at the start of the negotiation process, so we can structure deals differently. It may be a case that they want to remain in that property, so we can carve off their house, or we can do this, or they can get a finished product at the end. So we really focus on the third party needs. That's one of the things that separates us from the market. The other thing is the style of developments we're doing aren't being done in Australia at all, in the sense that the future ready stuff we're implementing, in the sense of it's going to be turnkey solutions from the start. So things like solar arrays are going to be standard on every home. Including internal battery storage on everywhere. So they'll be there. Other things like electric vehicle charging points within each garage, if they're there. And also for this particular development, we've got a couple of class 2, which is like apartment complexes, small apartment complexes, which will be obviously under a body corporate structure. and those in the actual sort of public open space within the development, there will be the high-speed electric vehicle charging points that will be tariffed out to the public if they want, and those rates will then go to the body corporate as well. But they'll be a tag on and tag off system, so that everyone that actually lives within that village has free access to those charging points. So there's that sort of stuff. There's things where we're integrating wind energy as well. There's new technology out there that uses wind turbines that go across the ridge capping of the roof, and they only add another 40 centimeters of profile to the roof, but they actually obviously trickle feed your inverter and your energy storage system that's attached to your solar, but they trickle feed that constantly, either during night or in cloud, as long as there's a breeze. And in Western Australia, there's always a breeze. So so things like that. There's a really innovative, really cutting edge technology that's actually being developed in Western Australia by another company called Power Ledger, and I recommend viewers check that out, because it's really changing the way that energy is being distributed around consumers. So, and basically the model that we'll be integrating into this development is a peer-to-peer sharing of energy, sort of like what Napster and Pirate Bay and that sort of stuff are for the movies and that, whereas this is going to be a legal means of sharing energy between neighbours, so that if say there's 10 townhouses in this development, every townhouse is obviously going to produce the same amount of energy from the sun, because they're going to have the same solar panels and battery storage. Yeah. However, I might be a single guy that lives in this, and I might work away. So pretty much all of my energy will get either stored in my battery and then sent to this grid. But my next door neighbour might have 5 kids and use way more energy than what they produce. So instead of my neighbour actually buying it off the utility company at a higher rate, they can buy it off me at a reduced rate. And instead of me selling it to the utility company at a small rate, I can sell it to them at a slightly higher rate. So it's a micro economy within the actual just development itself. And then anything excess at the end can be sold back to the utility, and again, people can profit from that. So it's a really, really cool model, and it's really shaking up the energy industry in Australia. And it's a big plus for utility companies as well, because now they're not having to worry about providing, the peak energy supply required if they've got what we call distributed energy.
It'll help them reduce the fossil fuels as well.
Absolutely. So, and we're really focused on that. The other thing, like I said at the start, where our developments are started from the built form first. So that means every development is architecturally designed. It's solar passive design from the start. Really focused on that. And the guys we've got on board, like David Barr, he's an absolute expert in that field. So, so that's what sort of sets us apart. We're not a normal developer that carves off land, tries to get the smallest blocks possible and put the largest house on that smallest block and just create, ghettos of grey walls. That's not what we're about at all. So, and like I said, we're getting really good groundswell with it. So it's exciting that people are wanting to buy in intellectually. Yeah.
Jeremy, I asked what was your USP, and I think you just smashed it out the park. You and I were both at an event.
I need to condense it, I
think. We were both at an event 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles, and we had the privilege of watching some global superstars, Mel Gibson, a whole lot of them. We can rattle off a whole lot of names, but I'm not yet a name drop. Mark Wahlberg, etc. And probably the biggest takeaway I got from that was it's not only about the money that some of these guys have made, and a lot of them have made a lot of money, but it's what they do with the money, the good that they do with the money. It's almost like a holistic approach. Some of them have a green approach, but everybody has a do-good attitude, a do-good mindset to be able to give back to the environment, to the world, to fellow man. And I'm honestly genuinely impressed by the ethos that seems to be ingrained in yourself and obviously into your business. And that green is not just a theme, but it's an essential part of a stabilization of humanity, really. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, I like the idea from a wholly capitalistic point of view, is where you can be harvesting energy from the sun or the wind, and somebody else can come and plug in their car, and you, the homeowner, it's almost like owning your own, what do you call it, a fuel station? What do you call it, a fuel oil? What do you call it there in Australia?
Yeah, servo, yeah, service
Servo,
station.
yeah.
So
So you basically
servo,
own your own electric servo if you're running the building. That's brilliant. And then just to recap, so if I'm not using much energy, I don't have to buy my energy from so if I'm using loads of energy, I don't have to buy my energy from the expensive energy provider. I can buy it from my mate next door who's got a shared equity or shared version of the power that's coming through there. So at a cheaper rate. And then again, you said anything in excess of what the entire unit or building is then sold off to the energy providers at a cheaper rate, thereby lowering the whole cost of energy for everybody overall.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
folks,
So everyone,
if you haven't heard it before, I've heard it for the first time here, and I think that's just absolutely brilliant. So, geez, honestly, hats off to you. That's fantastic. You know, I think people
we're really excited about it.
one that needs to be replicated. I think it's brilliant. So, yeah, here's a question: how do you get there? I mean, I've heard of different versions. I've never heard of exactly how this works. Did you stumble on this? Or how did you get to this point?
It was just an education process. I had a vision of how I see things being built over the last sort of 10 or 15 years, and especially in Western Australia, we've got a unique issue where our metropolitan area for Perth stretches about 190 kilometres, because we're bounded by the sea on the west, and we're bounded by the Darling Scarp, or the mountain range on the east. So we've only got a small narrow area that we can expand the urban sprawl. And business as usual, and the Australian dream has been to buy the quarter-acre block and put the house on, and you have the backyard and everything like that. But it's not sustainable. It puts far too much pressure on local government and state government infrastructure to support everyone across that's so vast. And it's not sustainable in the sense that the detriment that it's doing to the environment and to doing to the landscape. I could see that things need to change. Everyone's talking about increasing densities, and that's one way to sort of solve the infrastructure issue, but it doesn't solve the social issue of disconnecting people. You can have, really increased densities and just build towers and everything, but that doesn't, you need, for a community to thrive and a population to thrive, it needs to have a social and community balance about it. And that's what, we're really focused on, just as much as the environmental sustainability. We're really focused on the mental health and the community sustainability as well. So without both of those things, it's not going to survive. So something's going to give. So that's sort of where this sort of thing came about. Basically seeing a need for it, and then it was just an education process. The energy side of things, I went to seminars. I learned as much as I could about the renewable energy sector and these new innovations, and sort of came across these different things and saw how I could integrate them into the developments. And like I said, people, because it's new and the groundswell's early on, people were really excited and willing to partner and buy in intellectually with anyone like-minded about it. So it's basically just an education process for myself as well. And that's all I can recommend to anyone else. If you're passionate about something and you want to make the change, then you've really got to put the time and effort into doing your research and your knowledge in whatever sort of industry it is. But the more knowledge that you gain, and the more knowledge that people are going to want to garnish out of you, and it's a reciprocal process. And so I get people willingly giving me information about new products and innovations, because they obviously are passionate about that as well. So, and as you know, John, it's about surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and that's what really fast tracks some collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that flows on very neatly to the next question I have for you, really, Jeremy, is branding and your perception and being visible out there in the market and outside of your market to both investors and clients, etc., is vital. So I just want to know, what are you doing to get out there and to make sure that your message is heard?
Well, it's a really new concept to me, that branding and marketing, and that's sort of what I discovered through the JT organisation, that sort of thing, and various other channels as well, and various other people that I've met through other businesses. In the sense that I needed to really focus on the branding and marketing of myself. So that's why I separated Jeremy K. Streeter and the name that I go through now, rather than my old sort of persona of just being Jeremy Streeter and, friends and family and mates and that sort of stuff, and really separating the two and working on the branding and marketing of myself personally, because with that investment, that then travels with me in whatever field and whatever industry I go to, and the credibility continues. And like I said, the credibility through association, through associating with people like yourself that are doing things in your neck of the woods, and people in various different industries, and associating with the people there. So, and rather than if I spend all my money on branding and marketing of Daytor or Future Ready Homes, if for whatever reason I was to move on from that or unsell that, all that time and resources remains with that company, and then I would have to start again at this new company and building the branding and equity and credibility up again. So that's what one of the big lessons is, actually focusing on my personal brand and building that. And the best analogy I've come across about what is your brand is, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So everything that I do is with that in the back of my mind. So, and it's regardless of personal brand and marketability and commercializing, it's a pretty good ethos and a way to live anyway. So.
Absolutely. And I find I live by a very similar ethos, and I find when you have that thought on your mind and you're thinking along those lines, you're always conscious about what you're doing. And by very nature, by being conscious of what you're doing, you're improving the very nature of everything that you are actually accomplishing. And by that nature, everything you're doing is just getting better and better and better. So that's a good way to look at it. All right, Jeremy, just moving on swiftly. I like to know about a balance in life. I like to understand what people are doing. We get some people that work too hard, some people that play too hard, and etc. So I just want to know about your life balance across 4 main areas. And the word is life. So that's leisure, income, family, and experience. So tell me, for leisure, what do you do for leisure, Jeremy?
My leisure is most of my leisure time is spent with my family, in the sense I've got 5 kids ranging from 1-year-old to 14 years old. So it's busy for there. I have been sort of a competitive open water swimmer for many years. So I focus on fitness and swimming, like competitive swimming in that regard. And that's what I basically do for leisure, and travel with the family. So, but that's, both my eldest daughters, they're really heavily involved in competitive swimming as well. So a lot of our leisure and extracurricular is focused around that. And I love it as well. And it's good to see that they all, and the West Australian lifestyle and beach lifestyle, swimming and surfing is just a way of life over here. So, so yeah, for leisure, it's that sort of stuff. And my wife and I try to get away on the rare occasion when we can, to see some, sort of amazing parts of this country that we've got. And then that's what we sort of, the leisure. It's difficult with 5 kids and running multiple businesses, but it's
5 kids, yeah, 5 kids and multiple businesses. Well, there you go, folks. Anybody who says they've got 2 kids and can't do it, or 1 business and they can't do it, Here's somebody who's running 5 kids. And how many businesses, Jeremy?
3 at the moment, with a couple more looking at starting up there.
Just the 3 for now. Okay. All right. So it can be done. Just coming back to the environment in Perth, I'm originally from Durban, South Africa, and a lot of people have said, a lot of people left South Africa a few years ago, moved to Perth, a lot of South Africans in Perth, and they say that the climate is very similar to Durban. So myself growing up on the beach, outdoors environment, so it's a fantastic place to be. So, and now I'm living in England, and if I'm looking outside, it's raining, maybe sleeting. I'm exceptionally jealous of you right now. All right, next question. Income. I think it's quite a rude question. I've never asked you what you earn or anything like that. But obviously, from an income perspective, that's coming out of the businesses. And you know, sitting here, I'm very impressed by the ethical nature of what you're doing and how you're actually giving back, and the longevity and the long-term aspect of what you're looking at in the business. So I think it'd be rude to even ask anything along those lines. Family, you've just discussed, you've got 5 of them.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How do you handle that?
Having an exceptional wife, basically. That's.
You're going to show her this video, I assume.
Sorry.
You're going to show her this video.
Yeah. When she wakes up in a couple of hours, or the kids come running in and wake her up, yeah, that she can check it out. But no, having an exceptional wife and also brilliant sort of extended family around us as well is vital. It's, you know, whenever I think it's difficult for me when I'm doing like a 23 sort of hour day to day, where I'll fly from, like I said, from Perth to Sydney, spend 5 hours there for meetings, and I'll fly back from Sydney back to Perth tonight. If I start for a second to think that that's difficult, then I think about what Lisa's going through with the 5 kids at home as well. So it sort of brings it into perspective a bit. And it's just having, the other key really is to so whatever you're doing at the time, whether it's you're actually working or whether it's with your family, you need to be present in the moment there. I've found that's really key. I guess it comes from I've got a military background, and we used to get trained about how to sort of disengage when we come back from various different places or conflicts or whatever. You really need to try and disengage from where you've been, because when you walk through the door, when you come home, you're not that person anymore. You're dad, or you're the husband, or the wife. So you need to be able to really be present in that moment. So it's a discipline thing where you get home, the distractions like the phone or the laptop and that they need to be removed. I think that's key. You need to be present at the moment.
That's fantastic balance, and I think that's almost call it a disease that the youngsters of today don't really understand. Is you watch everybody sitting on their phones and there's no more social contact. And I'm actually sitting here. Listen, I have 2 kids, and I sometimes find I don't disengage as you mentioned. So I'm taking some pointers on you. I'm going to go home and tell wife I'm going to be more engaged from them.
Yeah, it's difficult. It really is a key, and the rewards come back to you tenfold from your family when you actually are present. And it's more beneficial for your business because you are recharged and you don't have any. The biggest issue I found was you can really get an underlying feeling of guilt as a business owner, and when you're focused on that, and that, and in the sense of I'm not spending enough time with my family or whatever, then that will impact the performance of you and your business. So by you disengaging from your business life and focusing more on your family, it's actually adding value to your business anyway, because you're being more productive when you're there.
That's a good point. I've always thought that the wife with the kids is one of the worst paid, most underappreciated, but most rewarding roles that any human being can take. And I think having 5 kids, I knock my cap to your wife. Yeah. All right. Just moving on quickly. You're in business due to market gaps and opportunities. Can you tell me about the path that you pretty much design and how you pretty much take your clients from struggle to solution. So the path, the whole design of taking somebody from somewhere, from an opportunity through to a solution. How do you do that?
So from a point of view of a client being someone that's going to acquire, buy one of these finished products, we actually do things a little bit differently, in the sense that we find that in this market there's too much choice, and what I mean by that is the market that we're focusing on is the first homeowner market, the affordable housing market, and so that in that regards, we find that too much choice clouds their judgment of what they actually need and require. So done a lot of focus groups and that sort of thing about finding what's lacking and what's going to be the big shifters in the marketplace. And the biggest one is the baby boomer market. There's 5.5 million baby boomers in Australia, and there's a couple of things that are actually going to big problems that are going to arise out of that. Obviously, you've got 5.5 million people that are set to retire, and a lot of those people, as the aging demographic gets worse, the problem is they don't have super and that sort of stuff. They don't have, the healthcare system isn't sufficient. So things like what we call multi-generational cohabitation is going to be key. So that's what we sort of do, like dual key arrangements, where we know that elderly parents can actually move back in with family to be looked after in that regard, and a few other things. I'm starting to get quite a few different announcements in the airport now.
I'm impressed that it's 4:45 in the morning in Australia, and you're still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you haven't had a coffee yet. So I'm very impressed. Yeah, I'm conscious you have to jump on a plane, so I'll try and get through a couple of these questions for you. What's your vision of success? Where are you going? What is to? If you had to say, I've done it, I've got there, I've got exactly what I want. What is your vision of success?
From a personal point of view, my wife and I have got an idyllic parcel of land that we've got in mind down south in a region called Margaret River in Western Australia. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and it's a large property where we can have our entire extended family, 50 odd people down there, that can all stay there and have Christmas and everything else and that sort of stuff, and really just be a sort of focal point for everyone. And that's our sort of idea of success, in the sense that we can have that, and when we're old and our kids are grown up, and we can have all the extended family down there. So that's, from a personal point of view, that's our idea of success, is having that. From a business point of view, my idea of success, my vision is to help as many other people succeed as possible, and in doing so, the rewards will come back to me anyway. So I don't have set monetary goals, so to speak, or anything else like that, or how many businesses I want to own, or how many businesses I want to run. There's a couple of specific things that I want to have achieved there's a new sort of property platform that I'm looking at launching online, which I'm really wanting to share with you and the audience at the moment, but it's still in its very early stages. But this is the thing that's going to be game changing, I feel, for the industry as a whole. And so I guess a success for me will be the case of putting the power back in the consumer's hands, and by the consumer I mean the original landowner, and basically, yeah, it's really hard to explain, I guess. So success for me, in a nutshell, is helping as many other people succeed their goals.
Fantastic. And what are you looking for? How can we help? Are you there, Jeremy?
Yep. Yes, I'm still there.
Hello? Yep, he's there. Jeremy, how can we help you? You mentioned you've got something in the pipeline. I want to extend this offer to you now. Obviously, it's a little bit early to be discussing that, but when you know what that is, And when you want to go out and you want to go out to market and you want to discuss it, please, can you give us first option to discuss it? And we'll be more than happy to mention that and put you out onto this platform globally. But the question I have for you is, what are you looking for your investors, for the people, your clients, and whatever? What are they looking for, and how can we help them take the next step in helping themselves and move your business forward?
The ideal thing I'm looking for, and I guess a lot of property developers are looking for, is private equity and capital that is willing to buy into the idea just as much as the actual return on investment. So the return on investment is going to be there for the capital. There's no problems about that. We've got it structured, and the way we do things, like I said, like the way we de-risk things with the property options and everything else like that, we really focus on the investor and securing their investment as well. So the biggest way to help me is to have a network and a group of capital, of private capital.
So you're moving away from investment then?
Want to move away from conventional bank investment that's really restrictive and isn't visionary.
Yep.
You know, I really want to get away from that. And the problem is what profit they get isn't going back to ideas and the community anyway. So the best way for me is to find private capital that share the wealth, I guess, and share the vision of what we're about. And that way they're knowing in the back of my mind that when I've got new land acquisitions coming up and new projects and new innovations that we can add, knowing that I've got the security of private capital and backers behind me, that's knowing that I can move forward with confidence and get things happening rapidly.
That's fantastic. You know, my personal view is when you have a business which is just win on one side and lose on another, then all the capital is going into one area and it just stays in one area. My personal view of capitalism is of a sharing of wealth and a recreation, a regeneration, a resharing of wealth. It's not a socialistic point of view. It's when everybody's involved and everybody's getting their piece. The money cycles through a hell of a lot faster, and everybody then gets a bigger slice of the pie and can play the game a lot bigger, as opposed to having a restrictive slice of the pie. So yours is a lot more money sharing and an equitable point of view. And that, my very next question is brilliant. How do people get hold of you? Where do people come? How do people are going to be excited by this? How do they find you, Jeremy?
Look, the best way, it's funny enough, is by Facebook. I'm constantly on that, updating things. The website, the W.O.R.K.S Development's website, they can get in contact through there. There's contact fill-in forms that they can access there. But the main thing and the instant sort of access is Facebook through. So either W.O.R.K.S Developments at Facebook or my personal one, Jeremy K. Streeter, and that way I can get in contact with them and we can, move forward from there. But then it's instant contact.
Absolutely. So the more you can do is obviously wholly dependent on the size of the network that you have, correct? So correct. The question I have, what are you doing to build your network of like-minded people and people that can be working with and for you to build this fantastic mindset that you have?
Well, IMN, or the Intelligent Millionaires Network, is one of the core things, and it's one of the main reasons why I found that I got into that. As a club owner of that, was I wanted to find a network of people, of like-minded people, exactly like that. So whether they be suppliers or consultants or capital and equity, getting them together for collaboration. And now, obviously, the Intelligent Millionaires Network is a global network, and they are very like-minded entrepreneurs that want to. So that's been vital, and so I'll be putting a lot of time and energy into that, adding as much value to the membership base for that as well, and in turn, trying to instill a sort of entrepreneurial mindset with the members of IMN, so that they want to they want to add value to their other members, and in doing so, more value will come back to them. So that's, as far as building the network, that's what I'm looking at. But, and living by this philosophy that you need to associate with people that will lift you higher and not drag you down. So, that's the other key, and that's the other sort of mindset shift I had over the last couple of years, was that, people say that you're the collective of the five people you spend the most time with outside of your family. So if you're not where you want to be in life and business, then change those 5 people.
Sure. Sure.
And,
I mean, I myself come from a corporate background of 20, 25 years working in the banking industry in South Africa and in the city of London. And I found them to be quite a restrictive environment, and reasons why you could not do something, as opposed to now breaking out into this entrepreneurial journey. And the same as you, I own an Intelligent Millionaires Network in Cardiff in South Wales, is you're now surrounding yourself with people who want to work with you, who want to be doing things, and are finding reasons how they can do something as opposed to why they cannot do something. And it's a fantastic environment to be a part of. Jeremy, we're starting to run out of a bit of time here, but I just want to open the platform to yourself. And is there anything you want to say to any of the viewers and guests online about yourself or your property business? And also just keep in mind about how we can potentially be doing property work with none of your own money. Open the mic to you.
Not so much. I just want to thank you very much for your time and the exposure of Day Developments and myself, and getting in these innovative sorts of ways. But just, I guess, to the viewers and everyone else, just keeping the mindset that there's always a way to structure things. Don't be boxed into the conventional, because if you are, then you're only going to get conventional results. So regardless of what industry you're in, you really need to ask yourself, the question isn't how do you do things, the other question to ask is why. So why are things done this way? And if you don't have a good enough answer about why they're done conventionally, then do them differently. And people will come along with you on it.
I suppose, just get out there and do what you want to do. Don't be doing it the way.
Go ahead and do it. Make sure you believe in it. If you've got to really believe in it within yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to be believable with anyone else. So you really need to have that strength of character and believe in your vision, and you can achieve it. I know it sounds cliche, but it really is the key.
No, sure. Jeremy, when wrapping up, my last little question involves a question around gratitude and about what you're doing that is ethically right and morally correct. What are you doing for your fellow man and for your environment? And I think that's pretty much already been answered. I think you're a brilliant human being. I think what you're doing and what you are achieving, not trying to achieve, what you are actually doing, is fantastic. I think the concept of how you're financing, how you're utilizing energy is brilliant on one side. I think how you're helping the homeowners, how you're helping achieve decent prices, and how you're creating these ethically sourced homes and are creating viable investments, and something that's different, something that is exactly what you said, is out of the norm, and it's setting yourself apart. It's fantastic. So from my point of view, Jenny, I really want to commend you, and I'm really honoured to have hosted you on the show. A simple question that I'll finish off by asking you: what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my family, big time. I wake up every morning and figure out how I can deserve my family, and I keep that mindset. What can I do today better than I did yesterday, and what can I do today to deserve my family? So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for just existing. I'm grateful for being born where I was in Australia and living in an exceptional country, having exceptional parents, and I guess now I'm grateful for having the courage to basically branch out on my own that I did 18 months ago. No, not even that. 12 months ago is when I first started in business. So it's only been 12 months. So I'm grateful for having the courage to actually go out there and finally sort of listen to my inner beliefs and inner self and go for it. So
that's fantastic. Jeremy, you really are, I'm going to try and quote the Australians and call you really a top bloke, which is fantastic to see. And again, I just want to say that honoured to have you on board. The name of this radio station or this webcast is Building Returns. You definitely are building returns. You're taking buildings and you're returning them, and you're getting returns out of buildings as well. The key area behind that is the ethically sourced, the way that you're doing it, the fact that it's green behind it. I think that's brilliant, and you really, really have echoed exactly what we're trying to achieve. Well, not what we're trying to achieve, what the essential part of what this radio show is. So you're a key guest, and I really genuinely want to thank you for your time. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. You've been going for an hour already. You're about to get on an aeroplane. You're going to fly to the other side of Australia to carry on your message. Please, if I can ask that you can take this message, share it on Facebook, get it around. We want to get this message as far and wide around the world as we can. We're doing the right things here. We're doing it better than anybody else. We're doing it ethical. You are an example of that. And again, I just want to thank you very much for your time. And I want to wish you happy travels. And I'm sure we'll almost certainly be chatting and communicating in the future. So again, thank you very much for your time and have a safe flight.
I appreciate that, John. Thank you very much. The feeling's mutual, mate. So thank you.
No problem. Cheers. Okay, have a safe flight. Ta-ra. Bye-bye.
Bye.